another episode of NFI Hammer. In this episode, I will be painting this Necron tomb blade. Check out my previous video if you want to see how I built it and where I got it from. So I'm just starting off with the Rune Lord brass paint with the black primer undercoat. So I'm pretty excited now that 10th edition is coming out to get my Necron army ready for battle. And this guy will help complete my 2000 point army. Here I'm just applying the brass color to all the different parts of the vehicle that I want that color. I'm trying to avoid areas that are going to remain black, but I'm not really minding too much if I get it in places because I can go back later and touch it up. The next color I'm using is Runefang Steel, which is the silver color. It's not really the normal recommended color, but I wanted different tones of silver to help kind of differentiate and make them a little more interesting. So I'm just applying it to kind of the shield veins at the back as well as kind of the sides of the vehicle. And I'm trying to leave the where the glyph writing is black in the background. So now I'm using the other silver color, Lead Belcher. This one's a bit more toned down, less shiny silver. So I'm just applying that to the weapons as well as the add-ons at the back. And I just find that it kind of helps break up so it's not all like one silver tone. And yeah, I'm just trying to avoid any of the divots and just leave them black as the primer color underneath. But I'm going to put a wash on them later to help bring out the details. All in all, I found this model was kind of fun, quite challenging, more than I thought it was going to be, because there's so many like little bits and pieces on the inside, and trying not to get paint where you shouldn't, I found quite difficult as a beginner who's only been doing this for a couple of months. And then moving on to the Moot Green, I've already, you can see here, applied it to the ball at the front just because I wanted to test what it looked like with the black primer. And with a couple of coats it was totally fine. I wasn't sure if I needed to do a white undercoat first. And here I've kind of just got a pattern in my head that if the tube is non-ribbed, then I'm just painting it as green, and if it's textured then I paint it as silver. It's kind of just my own mental model of what makes sense, and I find that having the kind of mental idea of like the textures and the parts of the ship should be painted a certain color just helps it cohesively work together. And then here I'm just putting the green into the gal's weapon at the front here. I haven't really found a way of painting the weapon dots that I'm satisfactory with. I find that if I put too much in, it looks messy, but if I don't put enough, it looks kind of boring and dull. So if anyone's got any suggestion on how to make the weapons more interesting and intimidating, please let me know. You can see here I'm adding more to it, but it kind of looks a bit messy. Then I'm moving on to gold, so I'm using the Retributor armor, and I'm just doing all the glyphs. So there's the ones on the side here, and because I've left the background black, it looks pretty nice. Then there's the front of the vehicle, and then also the Necron's chest. So I was actually really happy with how this turned out. This is actually my favorite part of the model. And then I'm using this Mr. Hobby Bright Green just to color in this detail in the ship side. I could use Moot Green, but I felt like it really wasn't energy. It's more of like a detail. And then I'm using Moot Green for these add-ons, war gear for the ship. And then I'm mixing some Korax White with the Moot Green to try and add some gradient to some of these green areas. So at the top, kind of where the light would be coming from, I'm just applying a lighter version of Moot Green, and it just kind of helps give it a bit more of a tone than just like the one color. This is a skill that I'm trying to work on. And so here I'm actually just applying pure white, and I'm just putting a tiny little dot or a tiny stroke. But here on the weapon tubes it didn't look very good, so I went over with the green just slightly to kind of make it look less white. And then here's my attempt of edge highlighting on the weapons. So I'm using Stormworm and Fur, but I'm mixing in a little bit of moot green that I had left over, so it kind of has a little bit of a green hue. One of the commenters suggested that you can actually mix this grey with other colours, and it's a very subtle effect. I don't know, it looks a bit messy as well because I'm not very good at it, but it kind of just made the weapon break up a little bit. Then I used the Nuln oil to go through any crevices just to kind of help give it some depth to the model and make the shaded areas darker. But it's kind of all coming together now and it's looking pretty nice. I went over with Abaddon Black in any of the areas that I got paint where I shouldn't have. So that's helping the model look more appropriate. And then finally I'm using Reichland Flesh Shade just to make the gold stand out a little bit more. I find that this kind of gives it a red gold, kind of rose gold colour. And finally I kind of went off the books and I added some metallic blue-green just to the tips of the war gear here. I just thought that even though this isn't the normal Necron colours, it kind of just gave it a bit of a futuristic alien vibe to it, and I just found that it made it a little bit more interesting, even though that's strictly not the colour scheme of the Necrons. So here's the final product. I was really happy with the gold highlighting on the glyphs, but overall it was quite fun to do and a little bit challenging. If you liked the video or you've got any tips and tricks, please like or write a comment below, and if you want to see more content you can subscribe to the channel. It's totally free. It's been really fun documenting my journey and my progress, and I hope you're enjoying watching it too. Anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.